There's a new film on release from the hugely successful DC Extended Universe. It's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and I'm here to give you the exclusive heads up on this film. What? Really? Apparently it's been out since before Christmas. Whoopsie. Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. Yes, I finally caught up on the latest film from the not quite so successful DCEU, the DC Extended Universe. It's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. In fact, it's the last film in the DC Extended Universe. I've just finally caught up with it. I didn't get around to seeing it at the cinema. And it is one of those situations that, as I said with Argyle, where I was put off by the reviews. The reviews were very dodgy. And I just gave it a miss. I watched it now, it's on streaming. I finally caught up with it on the big screen, well, my 100-inch cinema projector screen a couple of days ago. And I really enjoyed it. It's nonsense, I suppose, in the way that superhero films generally are, sort of nonsense, but it's an incredible spectacle. And for me, it ranks alongside the likes of the Avatar films in terms of what it brings to the screen, in terms of incredible visual effects. I mean, we know it's all CGI and the volume and green screen and all these things, but it just looks stunning. It looks really good. I mean, I think it cost $200 million or something, and every dollar is up on the screen. You can see what they were going for with this film. It looks fantastic. It's so colourful, and the creature design and the technology and everything in it is so imaginative. It really is a very rich underwater world that this film was crafted. I understand, I think, why people felt that the film was a bit of a waste of time. We have to remember that despite the fact that everybody said that this was a flop, it started off quite slowly at the box office, but it showed tremendous legs, as they often say in terms of these things. It's sort of ticked over the weeks and over the last couple of months, and it's an audience have kept going to it and finding it, to the extent that it's made about $450 million at the box office worldwide, or it will do by the time it finishes its run. I accept that that's slightly less than half of the first one, but I think in comparison to a lot of recent DC EU films, I'm thinking of things like Blue Beetle, Flash, Black Adam, this is a bit of a success, and it's hard to work out exactly how the numbers really work out, but it's generally the rule of thumb is that a film needs to make double its box office to make a profit, plus you have to take into account things like promotional costs and so on. There's a lot involved in the making of and marketing of a film, but I think at the end of the day, when the final box office tally is in, when money from streaming and physical media and so on, I think that it's going to be a bit of a profit for the DCEU, and I think it's a nice way to draw a line under this rather failed attempt to bring these iconic characters to the screen. So the film itself, I had a good time with it. It was 2 hours of spectacle, and all of it powered with a really likeable performance by Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry, Aquaman. He's sort of slightly cast in the Thor himbo sort of mould that we have at the moment. He's not quite as inane as Thor has unfortunately become in the last couple of films, but he's very much this sort of chest-thumping He-Man hero who plunges in first. The film starts off with him, subsequent to the event of the first film, which incredibly was 5 years ago. He's now the king of Atlantis. He likes doing all the action-adventure stuff, but he's not so keen on being a king, sitting on a throne and giving orders and listening to councils, giving their boring directions. He wants to be out there doing things. So he's got a domestic life with his partner Hera, played by Amber Heard, the controversial Amber Heard, who has a sort of a cameo role in the film. She's certainly not front and centre in the way she was in the first film. They got a child, and they've sort of got a bit of domestic bliss on land while he's back and forth to Atlantis doing what he has to do. Meanwhile, his old enemy, David Kane, better known as Black Manta, he's played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, of course, not the third or the first, the second. He's back. He's, in the way as it always is with superhero films, he's found an artefact, an ancient artefact, a trident, which gives him extraordinary powers. He gets possessed by Kordax, who's the ruler of the lost kingdom of Necrus, a kingdom that was imprisoned and frozen because it was so dangerous thousands of years before, a sort of a sister kingdom to Atlantis. But this character, Kordax, has been frozen, but his power is in the trident, and it possesses David Kane, who then, of course, decides that he's got to get revenge on Aquaman for having been beaten in the first film. And he sets about trying to subvert Aquaman's kingdom, and he needs the blood of the Arthur Curry stroke / Aquaman line. It's all a bit convoluted in the way that these superhero films very often are. But it touches on things like climate change and pollution and things, because he gets hold of something called orichalcum, which is a fantastic name for this power source that emits terrible greenhouse gases. And part of the plot of the film is that terrible catastrophes are happening on the Earth's surface. Tornadoes and earthquake devastation is being caused by these gases that are being released. He steals it from Atlantis' secure compound, and the battle ensues with Aquaman has to plunge into action to save his family, save Atlantis, and ultimately save the world. It's good fun. I really enjoyed it. What can I say? I went into thinking, yeah, it's just, it's leftovers, really. It just feels like the last desperate gasp of a project that didn't work. But I think it's very inventive. It's got a great sense of tongue-in-cheek about it. Very funny in places. Some great performances. I say Jason Momoa is great as Aquaman, and I'll say a bit more about him towards the end of the video. Supported, of course, by Patrick Wilson, who plays his brother, who was his enemy in the first film, and I suppose that reflects the Thor-Loki dynamic of it. Patrick Wilson is having a whale of a time in this part, playing this sort of slightly over-the-top mad lunatic character who forges a friendship with Aquaman when they have to work together to bring down David Kane. You got Nicole Kidman, who appears again as Arthur / Aquaman's mother. It's quite amusing in one action scene to see a CGI Nicole Kidman flying around the water. It's quite bizarre because we don't associate Nicole Kidman, particularly with these sorts of films. And you've got returning cast. Martin Short plays the voice of this fish-type creature. John Rhys Davies is back, playing a sort of Brine, I think he's called King Brine, I may be wrong there. You've got Dolph Lundgren playing a very impressive part, actually. So it's a really good cast who are enjoying themselves in this bit of fluff, really. But what really struck me was just how spectacular it looks and the effects. Well, we know it's all CGI, but it's very good CGI in this film, especially, blown up on my big screen. It has that, in places, it has that lack of solidity to it, with characters sort of flopping around, which are CGI effigies, if you like. But it all looks good. It's very, there's lots of great set pieces. There's lots of good practical design stuff in terms of the sets and various locations. I just had a good time with it, and I was a bit high pitched then. I had a really good time with it. I had a really good time with this. It's good fun. It's really good fun, and I think it's a very nice sign off for the DCEU, which wasn't an absolute disaster. I think that there were more interesting films than there were failures. I mean, I did like Blue Beetle. Flash had its moments. I wasn't a fan of the Justice League. I think that Zack Snyder isn't the right person for these films. The first Wonder Woman was terrific. We won't talk about the second one. Man of Steel wasn't bad. So there have been some decent attempts, but, largely it was in the shadow of Marvel, which was inevitable, really. But I think that if you get the chance to see Aquaman, I think it's still showing in some cinemas, but it is on streaming now. I would say go and watch it and see it, because I think you'll have a good time with it. If you like these films, if you find them enjoyable, I think you'll enjoy this one. Because it's not up to the standard of the very best of Marvel, in the early couple of phases of Marvel. But it's very well done. James Wan's directed the action very well. He clearly cares about the character and the world that's been created. And I think you'll enjoy it and have a good time with it. Now, I mentioned about Jason Momoa. And of course, I think that he and everybody sort of thinks that this is the end for his version of Aquaman. And I love the bit at the very end where he reveals Atlantis is revealed to the human race at last. And he does a little spin on Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. in the first Iron Man film, where he goes, I'm Iron Man. He does an I'm Aquaman bit. And it's very tongue-in-cheek and very wry and quite amusing. He does it with that surfer boy energy. And I think that we know that James Gunn is rebooting DC as a new DC universe. I think he's crazy not to bring Jason Momoa back. Even though this film has only taken half of the previous, it's quite clear that the audience does have a lot of affection for Jason Momoa as his character. And I think that they didn't bother with this film because they thought, well, the end of the DCEU, what's the point? I think that's kept a lot of the audience away. And I think he would be very wise to bring Jason Momoa back into his new DCEU, or DCEU, or whatever he's going to call it, because he just gives this character a real sense of power. He looks the part physically. He's clearly having a good time. He brings the right level of levity to it. And I think he's got star power. And I think he's very, very silly to cast that character aside. I don't know if he has any plans to reboot Aquaman somewhere down the line. Why? You've got a great Aquaman here who's been in one hugely successful film and one pretty successful film. And I understand that he's bringing back Blue Beetle. That baffles me because I like the Blue Beetle film. I quite like the character, but that was a massive flop. That was a film that didn't recover its costs. It barely leapt over the $100 million mark worldwide. So I don't know why he wants to bring Blue Beetle back above Jason Momoa's Aquaman, who's clearly a character that works for audiences. So James Gunn, if you're watching this, you may well be. I somehow doubt it, but if you are, come on, give us more Jason Momoa, because he's great as Aquaman. Right, that's my long-awaited and much-belated review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which is available to stream now. And you may catch it in some cinemas soon. And of course, it'll be on physical media before we know where you are. Right, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not like and subscribe? If you've just discovered this channel as well, like and subscribe. That would be great. I'm an edge away from 600 subscribers. Hallelujah. So, like and subscribe. Stick around, there'll be more stuff coming soon. Until I see you next time, keep taking the stuff.